In the heat of the Gulf, where temperatures hit 120 and dust storms black out the sky, a new kind of city is being built. Underground. Beneath the surface, developers are designing self-contained environments that look less like neighborhoods and more like science fiction habitats. Controlled, automated, and visible from above. But the question isn't just how it works, it's who it's really for. The term underground city might sound like something out of a movie, but it's not fiction. In the Gulf, where climate and energy shape how cities function, it's a real and active idea, especially in projects like Saudi Arabia's NEOM and the UAE's growing portfolio of high-tech urban experiments. The most public example so far is The Line, part of NEOM, which isn't entirely underground, but has underground layers that handle transportation and utilities beneath a car-free, pedestrian-only surface. It's being pitched as a vertical city stretched across the desert, with stacked infrastructure zones and self-contained environments designed to withstand rising heat and desert storms. The UAE has been exploring similar concepts, though with less fanfare. Masdar City near Abu Dhabi started as a clean tech hub and pilot for sustainable urban planning. It didn't fully live up to its original vision, but it laid the groundwork for how the Emirates now approach city building. Smaller footprints, smarter systems, and more control over temperature and dust. Newer plans, some of them not yet public but tied to infrastructure. Think tanks and government-backed entities like the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure are reportedly exploring subsurface development. These wouldn't be sprawling basements or parking levels. They're imagined as livable environments with climate control, integrated logistics, and AI-managed services. Developers like Emaar and Eldar, which already have massive footprints in places like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, are rumored to be involved in proposals that test parts of this underground approach. It makes sense. When summer temperatures routinely hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit and sandstorms can grind entire districts to a halt, there's a growing logic to moving systems underground where they're easier to shield and manage. It's not just about comfort either. With water scarcity and energy use under pressure, cities built below ground could reduce surface disruption and make more efficient use of cooling, transport, and land. The tech isn't theoretical anymore. From hyperloop tunnels to underground data centers, the infrastructure is catching up to the ambition. What's changing is scale and purpose. These aren't just backup bunkers or gimmicks, they're serious bids to reimagine what a city looks like in extreme environments. But the concept didn't appear overnight. This idea has been decades in the making, fueled by global money and bold leadership. The idea of an underground city in the UAE might sound like science fiction, but the names involved in making it real are some of the most influential people in tech, design, and government today. At the center of it all is Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the president of the UAE. He's been pushing large-scale investments into infrastructure projects that focus on sustainability, automation, and long-term resilience. His vision isn't just about keeping up with the future, it's about building it from the ground up, literally. Meanwhile, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai, has also played a major role. His office supports initiatives like the Dubai Future Foundation, which funds forward-looking architecture and city planning, including underground and smart systems. Dubai has already experimented with autonomous transport, AI-based city management, and even urban cooling systems. So, going underground is more of a next step than a leap. Outside the UAE, there is a growing list of global players who have shown interest in collaborating. Masayoshi Son, the billionaire behind SoftBank, has met with UAE leaders to talk about tech-based cities and next-gen infrastructure. His Vision Fund has already poured billions into energy, AI, and robotics. Exactly the kind of tools you'd need to make an underground city work. Then there is Elon Musk, who has talked publicly about tunneling systems through the Boring Company, which has had conversations with Middle Eastern governments, including officials in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, about building high-speed transit routes under the desert. On the design side, names like Norman Foster and Bjarke Ingels keep coming up. Foster plus Partners has designed portions of Masdar City. a high-tech urban experiment in Abu Dhabi that laid the groundwork for what an energy-efficient city could look like in the region. Bjarke Ingels, whose architecture firm BIG has worked in everything from space habitats with NASA to floating cities for the UN, has also been tied to Gulf region smart infrastructure projects. So no, it's not a fantasy dreamed of by science fiction fans. It's a project with real weight behind it, funded by oil wealth, driven by climate urgency, and shaped by some of the world's most ambitious minds. When these minds and wallets come together, what you get isn't just a city, it's a new way of living entirely. Living in one of these underground cities doesn't feel like stepping into a bunker, it feels more like entering a controlled ecosystem. Quiet, polished, and built to run itself. The most ambitious models, like those being proposed as offshoots of the line in Neom or under review in the UAE, are designed to do everything a surface city does, just with tighter management. You're not walking down dark corridors or riding elevators to nowhere, you're gliding through automated transport pods that operate on AI-managed schedules, moving people silently across zones, no cars, no traffic. Just an underground grid that keeps everything moving without much human input. Inside these structures, the air is filtered constantly. Zones are climate controlled to stay at a fixed, comfortable temperature, regardless of what's happening above ground. Some areas mimic open spaces with digital ceilings that simulate daylight and sky, an idea borrowed from places like Singapore's jeweled Changi Airport and Japan's underground shopping arcades. There is biometric security at most access points, and the high-end residences, some being called underground villas by developers, use smart glass that can tint, turn opaque, or mimic outdoor views with projections. It's private, quiet, and tuned to the preferences of whoever lives there. A lot of the technology comes from existing ideas scaled up. Masdar City introduced the concept of a self-regulating city years ago, and though its vision fell short, many of its parts like renewable energy grids, automated logistics, and AI infrastructure have made their way into newer city plans. Elon Musk's The Boring Company also plays a role here, not directly but conceptually. His tunnels in Las Vegas gave people a glimpse of how city movement could go below the surface, streamlined and isolated from the unpredictability of street traffic. Beyond housing and transport, there's smart farming integrated into these models. Think vertical gardens built into the city's structure, powered by LED grow lights and drip systems. Some proposals even include underground desalination plants, recycling water from the surface, and reducing outside dependence. The food, water, waste, and energy systems are all designed to work in tight cycles, where everything feeds into the next process. Living underground isn't just about escaping heat or sandstorms, it's about creating a version of urban life that doesn't rely on the outside world for much. But while life underground may sound efficient and quiet, it's also creating a huge wave of reaction, good and bad. Building down instead of up might seem counterintuitive in a place like the UAE, known for its glass towers and record-breaking skylines, but going underground isn't about size. It's about control. Temperatures in cities like Abu Dhabi and Dubai can hover around 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is around 43 degrees Celsius for weeks at a time. Add to that dust storms, energy demands, and the strain of growing urban populations, and it starts to make sense why developers and planners are now looking below the surface. Unlike skyscrapers, which are exposed to heat and require massive cooling systems, underground spaces offer natural insulation. With the right design, they can hold a stable temperature year-round. That means less energy spent on air conditioning and more efficient use of resources, especially in a region where water is desalinated and power grids are pushed to the limit during summer. In extreme cases, like grid failures or heat waves, these self-contained environments could literally be life-saving. But the push underground isn't just about climate and infrastructure. There's a psychological factor too, particularly for the ultra-wealthy. In places like Silicon Valley, tech billionaires have built underground bunkers or private estates. Not because they think it's trendy, but because it represents something safe, controlled, unreachable. A well-designed underground home offers privacy from drones, paparazzi, and even natural disasters. In the UAE, that idea lines up with existing luxury culture. Exclusivity, security, and forward-thinking design all rolled into one. Projects like the rumored underground components of Master City reflect this shift. While the city's main focus is sustainability, its hidden layers, like automated transit tubes, subsurface service corridors, and heat-shielded data vaults, point toward a future where more of our lives happen out of sight. Not out of shame or secrecy, but because it might simply work better that way. And for some, it's about preparation. With geopolitical instability, climate change, and AI concerns gaining more attention, the idea of a quiet, self-sustaining space away from the chaos holds obvious appeal. Even if it's not marketed as survivalist, it has the same logic. Reduce exposure, increase control, and plan for what others don't want to think about. Still, no project this ambitious comes without its fair share of questions. For all the talk of smart living and futuristic design, underground cities have drawn heavy criticism. And not just from skeptics. Environmental scientists, architects, and human rights groups have all raised serious concerns. Building underground on the scale being proposed isn't simple, it requires massive excavation, constant energy inputs, and a supply chain that's anything but light. For places like NEOM's The Line, which cuts through hundreds of kilometers of desert and relies on drilling deep into the earth, the environmental footprint is already under fire. Critics point to the irreversible disruption of natural ecosystems and worry that the construction itself, trucks, cranes, energy demands, undermines the project's clean energy branding. There is also the question of who these cities are really for. Walk through the promotional material, and it's easy to get the impression that this is housing for a very specific type of resident. Tech-savvy, extremely wealthy, and willing to give up certain freedoms for sleek efficiency. That has sparked fears about exclusion, cities built not for general populations, but for elites who want to live away from climate instability, economic friction, or even democracy. Critics argue this kind of development feeds into a growing global divide, where some people build shelters against the future while others live through it unprotected. And then there's surveillance. In a city where AI runs the systems, tracks movement, and monitors everything from energy use to temperature, privacy becomes abstract. These are biometric environments, meaning that fingerprint scans, facial recognition, and constant tracking are the baseline. Some residents may find that convenient, but others see it as a warning. Urban researchers have raised alarms over how much control governments or private companies could exert in these places. If your home, transit, water, and food systems are all managed through a single interface, what happens when that interface is used to control behavior or limit access? In Saudi Arabia, the line has faced not just questions but protests. Human rights organizations have drawn attention to the displacement of tribal communities in the Tabuk province, where the project is being built. Reports from groups like Al-QST and Amnesty International have documented forced removals and even arrests tied to resistance. For all its sleek marketing, the human cost is real and ongoing. Despite the concerns, these cities are moving forward and fast. Underground cities in the UAE aren't being designed for the average commuter or casual tourist. These spaces, whether built as part of Masdar's urban core or emerging under private developments, are being shaped for a very specific group: the ultra-wealthy, elite professionals, and high-value residents. It's not something officials talk about in those exact words, but you can see it in the details. The types of companies involved, the price of entry, and the government programs that quietly align with the rollout. Projects tied to these underground or semi-underground hubs often focus on attracting global investors, diplomats, and highly skilled workers. The UAE has made that part official policy. Their Golden Visa program, launched in 2019, grants long-term residency to entrepreneurs, scientists, and other professionals deemed valuable to the country's future. More recently, it expanded to include digital nomads and remote workers, especially those in tech and finance. The idea is clear. Bring in people who can contribute to advanced industries and give them access to living conditions that match their lifestyle. That access doesn't come cheap, like the gated communities of Emirates Hills or the ultra-private villas of Dubai Hills. These developments are built with exclusivity in mind. They are not meant to solve population density or housing affordability. They are designed for comfort, security, and control. If someone can't afford to live there, they've already passed through several filters: economic, political, and sometimes even ideological. These aren't just residents, they're strategic partners in the city's future identity. Early access is likely going to tech companies working on energy, transport, or AI infrastructure. Engineers with contracts tied to government-backed firms might be among the first to live in test modules. Foreign diplomats or advisors involved in planning and development could also get slots. It's the same logic you see in places like Neom's Oxagon Port Zone, where work-live spaces are promised to executives helping run the city. There's a lot of mistake about these projects. Stories that sound like science fiction with whispers of underground bunkers and ultra-secure compounds. And while the truth isn't always that extreme, it's not still wide open. These underground zones are tightly managed, purpose-built, and expensive to run. But while access is limited, the bigger question is what this means for how cities everywhere could evolve. What's happening in places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE isn't just about regional ambition, it's starting to ripple outward, especially as more cities around the world face climate pressure, population surges, and infrastructure strain. Cities like Singapore have already been pushing underground for decades, not as a futuristic bet, but as a necessity. They've built malls, trained systems, and even research labs below the surface to make more use of limited land. Tokyo has taken a similar approach with multi-level transit tunnels and utility corridors designed to keep the surface walkable and the city resilient to earthquakes. Now, with the UAE exploring smart, climate-resistant cities that go beneath the sand, other regions are paying attention. California, for example, has wrestled with wildfires, drought, and housing shortages. The idea of compact, automated, temperature-stable underground zones isn't that far-fetched there anymore. India, facing both rising urban populations and extreme heat, has also started conversations around underground cooling systems and heat-mitigating architecture. These aren't just thought experiments. In places like Hyderabad and Pune, you're seeing real pilot projects around AI-based traffic systems and energy-efficient public housing, which could be stepping stones toward more self-contained urban zones. So, would you live in a billion-dollar bunker if it meant comfort, safety, and control? Leave your thoughts in the comments.